Hola, buenas tardes, bienvenidos a esta sesión, esta entrevista que vamos hoy a compartir con el catedrático Dr. Patrick Kenneth Freer, que está hoy aquí con nosotros en la Universidad Internacional de La Rioja. Yo soy Alfonso Elorriaga, coordinador académico del grado de música, y para mí es un placer poder presentar esta entrevista en la cual vamos a hablar sobre la educación coral con adolescentes y todo lo que está relacionado con la muda de la voz. Patrick Freer es un especialista de un gran renombre. Welcome, Patrick, to our university. It's a pleasure of having you here.
Thank you.
Y ha investigado este campo durante bastantes años, tiene varias publicaciones al respecto, y él también dirige el programa de educación musical en la Facultad de Música de la Universidad de Georgia State University en Atlanta, Estados Unidos. So, thank you very much, Patrick, for staying here with us again. We would like to, during this short interview, we would like to go deeper to this topic of choral singing with adolescents.
Sure.
And the first question I've been thinking about you, it would be that we all would like to know, why did you choose this topic of research in your life?
Well, I think this topic chose me. I was a boy who was told not to sing when my voice started to change. And I had a long process of moving first then away from singing, back to singing by the time I got into college. And once I became a singer in college and then thought, well, maybe I should major in music, and then thought maybe I should become a music teacher, and then after I became a music teacher thought maybe I should become an expert in this topic of the boy's changing voice. That was all well and good, except I didn't know anything about the boy's changing voice. So I started reading everything that I could, not just materials that had been newly written. Actually, there had not been much newly written, but I went back and read things that had been written over the course of the last century and became very interested in thinking, what do we know now, and what don't we know, and what do teachers need to know? And so from that, I started finding more and more ways to discover new information, and along the way discovered that none of this information had ever been obtained from boys themselves. So I started interviewing boys around the world, when I had the opportunity to, who had been successful at singing, who had withdrawn from singing, or who had never intended on singing. And I wanted to find out, what did they find that was helpful about their education, what did they find that was not helpful about their education, and then most importantly, what did all of that mean for how we teach?
Right.
So that is of most interest to me, and I think the topic chose me because I was once one of those boys.
Okay, so that's quite interesting. So I understand that experience that you had when you were a young singer really, in some way, was determinant for you.
Yes.
And how was it? Could you describe it a little bit more in that sense?
Well, it was determinative for me in the sense that it determined that I was not a singer for quite a period of time. I had loved singing as a child. I grew up in a very small rural community where music was a big part of the community. And all of a sudden, when my voice started to change and my teacher said I can't sing, I was no longer part of that community. And because at that time I was not a good athlete, I didn't do anything in school that involved other people. I studied by myself, I did my own work, I did projects that were independent, but I didn't do anything with other people. You know, my research now shows that being with friends is the number one reason that boys join choir. And I missed out on that entire experience. And I don't want any boy to miss out on that experience because someone told him he couldn't sing. Maybe some boys won't want to do it, and that's fine. But there are many, many boys who would like to sing, and I'd like to create that opportunity for everyone who wishes to have it.
Wow, that's really amazing. Thank you very much. And what do you think you can provide to the music educators community about this topic?
I think what I can provide is, or what I'm hoping to be, is what I could not find in my review of all of that literature. In my review of that literature, going back a century now, I could only find one or maybe two people who had devoted their lives to this, who made an initial inquiry, and then the next one, and then the next one, and the next, and the next. Instead, people made one study and then moved on to something else, or made a second study and then moved on to something else. So my contribution, I hope, is one that will encompass both breadth of different aspects of this topic, and depth, meaning I come back and revisit it over and over and over again across the course of a lifetime. That's what I hope my contribution will be once this is all over.
Great, thank you very much. I think we can move a little bit forward to the field of singing, specifically with boys that are changing their voices. I know your work very well, and I think we can share this with all the people that are just watching us right now. And I would like them to understand how deep you've gone with these students, with these boys. So what do the adolescent boys say about their choral experience, about their changing voices?
Well, they say a number of things, but at core, what they say is that they like to sing. And that was a surprise to me. I thought because there were so few boys singing in choirs and singing in schools, they must not like to sing. So I started out by finding out why they didn't like to sing. But that was the wrong question. It's not that they don't like to sing, or even that they don't want to sing. It's that they don't want to sing in choirs. And when I then pressed that question farther, the answer I got back was the boys didn't feel that their teachers were giving the boys what they wanted, which was skills. That the teachers were very focused on repertoire and conformity and everyone doing exactly the same thing at the same time, when the boys simply wanted to learn how to sing in any way that they could, perhaps in choirs, but also maybe singing rock or pop or jazz or gospel or Broadway or whatever. But the boys wanted skills of singing, and teachers weren't providing that. So that was a huge issue. And the other thing that was a surprise to me, and a big thing that I've been thinking a lot about, is it was the aspect of performance. You know, adolescent boy's voice changes and sometimes does things that he's not expecting it to do, and that can be awkward and embarrassing for boys. So boys have often asked, is it possible for me to learn how to sing in school without you making me get out in front of an audience and sing in public? So I've thought a lot about that as well. So how can we teach boys singing skills, and how can we do it in a way that protects them from potential embarrassment?
Well, that's quite interesting. And I know that you've been researching very much about this topic, considering the work and the research that we already know about the process of changing voice, the boys changing voice and the girls changing voice. And in your opinion, what are the most significant differences between these two processes, and how do they affect to some other fields like the psychological, from a psychological point of view, or a social point of view, or any other aspect that you would like to outline here?
Well, most generally, the adolescent voice change occurs in everyone. It's not just for boys, it's not just for girls. There is a change that happens in everyone's voice, just like the rest of the body changes. And because we know that adolescent girls enter adolescence and beginning with puberty about 2 years earlier than boys do, generally. We know that the changes that occur during adolescence, including singing, occur about 1.5 to 2 years earlier in girls than in boys. And in girls, that change is more qualitative. The vocal folds change differently than they do in boys. And in the girls, the vocal folds change in such a way that it makes their voice more mature, more rich, more full. But it doesn't change the pitches that they sing. So the change for the girls is less dramatic than it is for the boys. Perhaps the most dramatic change for girls is that for a period of time they might have a breathy voice, because as the vocal folds develop, the vocal folds don't close evenly. It's totally natural and totally normal, but a girl may not be expecting that as extra air comes through the vocal folds. However, for boys, the change is quite dramatic in that the vocal folds lengthen, which allows the boys to sing lower notes gradually over a period of time. And as the vocal folds are developing, the musculature around the vocal folds is also growing, and so the coordination of all of that can be a little bit awkward, and the voice can do some things that the boy isn't expecting, like suddenly reach for a higher note or suddenly reach for a lower note, which we might call a voice crack. But all that is the muscles adjusting to one another in a way that isn't yet smooth and conditioned. And the boy can be frightening for the boy or embarrassing for the boy, but we can help that by providing information for the boy ahead of time so that he knows what to expect and that he can predict what will happen after the voice changes. Alfonso, you mentioned the knowledge that we have about the girls and boys changing voice. And the good news is that none of this is a mystery. We know exactly what happens to the girls changing voice. We know exactly what happens during the boys' voice change. And my request for all of those people who are watching this interview is go find that information and make yourself a student of that information so that then you can help boys and girls understand what's happening with their voice. 20 years ago, we didn't know what was happening with the changing voice. Now we do, and that's our job as teachers to know that information and then convey it to our students so that they think, oh, yes, this is normal, I'm growing up, this is good, and now we go on, rather than being told they can't sing or saying, I won't sing.
And all this is really, really important to know, of course, but I would like also to go to advance a little bit more in the sense that how does all this information is connected, in your opinion, to the fact, to the way a teacher, a music teacher, a music educator, or a choral conductor has to face in front of his or her choir. I mean, having to do with things such as choral techniques, rehearsals, warm-ups, and just didactics. I mean, how does all this knowledge affect music education methodology?
When we talk about music education methodology, we have to think about, well, what is it that we're teaching? And we often think that my job is to teach the music. If we're a choir director, we might say we need to teach the music for the next concert. If you've done your job right, you've chosen that music to meet the needs of the students in front of you. And those students are different from year to year. The needs of the student are different perhaps from concert to concert or even month to month. And what do I mean about needs? By that I mean, what are the vocal skills that the students need in that moment? Sometimes they will need vocal skills and vocal training specific to where they are in the voice change process. At other times, they will need vocal skills and vocal training specific to the repertoire that you've chosen. And hopefully you've chosen repertoire that matches where the students are or matches where you want them to go in the moment, instead of being far too easy or far too difficult. And so I advocate for that our curriculum be thought of as being the vocal skills that we wish to teach, and that the repertoire is what we practice those vocal skills with. So it's kind of a flip of what often we think of in terms of organizing our teaching, where the music comes first and the students serve the music. In this case, the students come first and the music serves the needs of the students. So in that sense, that's why I think that our focus needs to be student-centered, on vocal technique, vocal skills as the curriculum, with repertoire enhancing and repertoire being where we practice those skills and techniques.
Good. And how all this has changed your philosophy of music education?
When I started teaching, I believed that my job was to teach music and to teach repertoire. Yes, I heard people say, we teach children. And I thought, well, of course we teach children. But as I've gotten more experienced, I now believe that that is incredibly true. We teach children, but we also teach them vocal skills, skills that last a lifetime, and that then they can apply to music whenever they wish, wherever they wish, and long after we're in their presence. Because my philosophy has shifted from the production of an excellent concert to thinking about how does that excellent concert play into the movie that is the child's life, that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and many scenes along the way. And in each of those scenes, I want that child to feel that he or she can sing in music. And in each scene, I want them to want to continue making music from beginning to end, so that the focus is now on the child's development over time, even though I will only see a portion of that development during the time that I'm with that child, who will eventually be an adult. So that's how it's changed my philosophy. The philosophy is not about teaching music in my classroom. The philosophy is about teaching music to students at one point in a very long development.
I see. Well, as far as I know, all this topic has a huge amount of information. And probably the people that are just watching us and our students from our grades of music here at the University International of La Rioja, probably very interested in where they could get more information about this topic. Which kind of readings would you recommend us?
I would recommend that you read something that answers a question that you have. This topic is huge. Every topic is huge. Find something that interests you. For instance, a topic that might interest you is, how does the girl's voice change? A topic might be, what is the physiology of the change of the boy's voice? Or maybe it's, what is the attention span of boys and girls? Find something that's very interesting. And a good way to do that is simply to do an online search for articles and then your topic. If you are interested in the boys changing voice and you're looking for articles, you will find many articles that I've written. And I've also written some books and produced DVDs, but many other topics will come up as well. I strongly suggest that you go to either just plain old Google or Google Scholar and just enter some search terms and maybe limit them by dates and find articles that are interesting to you and then use whatever that title is to probe deeper and find other sources. I would also encourage you to speak to your professors and then use your online libraries. One of the very best advantages that you have as a college student is access to information from all over the world. You will never again in your life have access to so much information. It can be overwhelming, so just play around with it. Don't try to learn everything all at once. Try to find something that interests you and start there, and then read as your interest grows.
Perfect. I understand perfectly that. So, just we are becoming to an end. And before we say goodbye, I would like to just to ask you a final question,
Yes.
if you let me. The point is, what else would you like to add before we say we end this interview? What else? What would you say to all the teachers that are now probably watching us? For you, just as a final finding about this topic of singing with adolescents.
My answer to that is a little bit broader than singing with adolescents. We know that music education worldwide seeks to be one that is valued in schools and one where we feel constant support. The opposite is sometimes we don't feel valued in schools and we often don't feel that there's a lot of support. But I think that there is a positive in that negative. And the positive is that not many people know what you do. And they aren't really watching what you do very carefully. So that, in the way that, say, if you taught mathematics or some other language, people are looking at you very carefully, that provides you an opportunity to experiment. So I would suggest that you experiment with the students in your classroom, experiment with these ideas, read an article and try the things in your classroom because you have a great opportunity to do that. And we can't worry so much about the entire field of music education or all of music education in Spain or all choral music across the world. We are charged with caring for the very specific students who come to our classroom every day. Focus in on them, focus in on their needs, and apply what you learn to those students. And then go outside the classroom to learn more things that you then bring in. That's what we call being a researcher. Researcher isn't just finding out information. Research is finding out information and then applying it to a specific situation. And that's what we are as teachers. Our job is to find out the best information we can, always learning, and then always bringing it back to our students in whatever situation we find ourselves. And that, I think, will make us happy, productive, and will increase the value of music education across Spain and across the world.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all that have been interested in this interview. And thank you very much, Patrick. We will be looking forward to being with you again next time.
Good. Thank you very much.